17. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Habermill.
Here.
Mrs. Oates.
Here.
Mrs. Stepp. Here. Mrs. Ennis.
Here.
And Mr. Stark.
Here.
Okay, on to item number 3. I'd like to invite the Citizens of the Month from Vermillion Elementary School up front. I'll give you brief instructions since I just remembered I forgot to do that before the meeting started. And then once they go through and introduce themselves, we will have them lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So will all the elementary school students, Citizens of the Month, please come forward up here. Anybody else? All right, we are ready. Hold this or just? All right. Your name?
Landon Boone,
Who's your teacher?
Mrs. Hunt,
And what grade are you in?
5th grade,
And what do you want to be when you grow up?
a baseball player.
Very good. Next.
My name is Harper Stutz. My teacher's name is Mrs. Karras,
What grade are you in?
kindergarten,
And what do you want to be when you grow up?
a police officer. My name is Peyton Bucks.
What grade are you in?
2nd,
Who's your teacher?
Mrs. Becker,
And what do you want to be when you grow up?
a chef.
Very good.
My name is Elena,
Okay, Elena, what grade are you in?
kindergarten,
Who's your teacher?
Miss Faulkner.
And what do you want to be when you grow up, Elena?
I don't know.
That's what you got lots of time to decide, right? Okay, good. Next.
I'm Captain Brecken.
And what grade are you in?
Kindergarten,
And who's your teacher?
Mrs. Boone,
And what do you want to be when you grow up?
a worker.
Good worker. Need those. And you?
Cole,
Hey, Cole. What grade are you in?
kindergarten,
Kindergarten. Who's your teacher?
Miss Lowe,
Okay, and what do you want to be when you grow up, Cole?
hockey player.
Very good. All right. Now, if everyone else will please rise to the Pledge of Allegiance, and followed by a moment of silence, led by our Citizens of the Month. You guys get to start us. You ready? Go ahead. Okay, it's always a pleasure to meet our Citizens of the Month and see what they want to be when they grow up. Moving on to item number 4.
Sure.
Or did you have students? I'm sorry.
No, I did not.
Okay.
The Vermillion Local School District is glad to have the opportunity to honor veterans from World War II, the Korean conflict, and the Vietnam War who were called to military service before graduating from high school with a high school diploma. Tonight we want to honor Joseph Allen G. Sr. Joseph is the son of Russell and Helen G. He came to Vermillion in October 1965 from Admiral King High School. Mr. Gee attended high school in the original building located on Decatur Street. He left in 1967 to serve in the Armed Forces of the United States. Mr. Gee served in the Vietnam War and was awarded an honorable discharge. He and his wife, Rosa G, reside in Sheffield Lake. Mrs. G is with him tonight, and so we want to honor him with this diploma, and we have a little gift in his honor as well. So if you wouldn't mind coming up tonight, Shelley, would you like to?
Congratulations. It's an honor to give this to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Do you, middle school students? Or they're up. Are there any Sailor Way students in the audience that are here to be recognized at all? Okay. Down to item number 5. We are going to be recognizing the administrative office staff for their work leading to Vermillion receiving the Auditor of State Award for exemplary fiscal reporting in 2016. And staff here, we have Suzanne Wilson, who is our treasurer, Cindy Akers, Human Resources and Administrative Assistant, Loretta Farnham is our payroll and benefits, Kathy Johnston, accounts payable, she processes purchase orders and checks, and Monica Stark, accounts receivable, student activities and payroll assistant. And she's not here tonight because she's in DC with the 8th grade students. I would like to take a moment to read the letter that the district received from the Auditor of State regarding our award. Dear Mrs. Wilson, Ms. Wilson, congratulations. Based upon your recently completed financial audit, it gives me great pleasure to inform you that the Vermillion Local School District has received the Auditor of State Award. Clean and accurate record keeping are the foundation for good government, and the taxpayers can take pride in your commitment to accountability. The Auditor of State Award is given to those entities that file timely financial reports in accordance with GAAP, as well as receive a clean audit report. The clean audit report means that your financial audit did not contain findings for recovery, material citations, material weaknesses, significant deficiencies, single audit findings, or any questioned costs. Enclosed is a certificate for your display. A template press release is also included, and we're going to put that out to the media, so I think that one's already been in the papers. Congratulations again on receiving the Auditor of State Award. My office looks forward to continuing to work with you to ensure clean, accountable, and efficient government for all Ohioans. And just to give you an idea of the main things that they look for as they come, and check us out here, is the entity must file, entity being the Vermillion Local School District Financial Office, must file timely financial reports with the Auditor of State's office in accordance with the GAAP, which is the generally accepted accounting principles. The audit report does not contain any findings for recovery, material citations, material weaknesses, deficiencies, any single audit findings or question costs, and the entity's management letter contains no comments related to ethics referrals, question costs, lack of timely report, reconciliation, failure to obtain a timely single audit, findings for recovery less than $100, and public meetings or public records. So I would like to present this board, Suzanne, to you and to your staff. I don't know if they would like to rise as well. It's an honor to give this to you. A job well done. It reflects well on the district. And again, I know from the outside, people don't always know the workings of it. But this means it's, sometimes people kind of grumble because it takes so long to get things moving through. But there's a process to it all. And you and your cohorts have done a great job following along, and no citations at all. So awesome job and excellent audit. Yeah. Okay, Matthew, Cindy, and Loretta.
Thank you, everyone.
So the district's very proud of the job the fiscal office does, and the community should be as well. On to number 6, student liaison update. Those.
I don't have one tonight, but are you from Salem? Is she from Salem? Did she get the Oscar? Yes.
Yeah.
Would she like to come up and tell my name? Sure. Is this on?
fifth grade and I want to be a zoologist.
Who's your teacher?
Mrs. White.
Mrs. White.
Good job. Thank you. Number 7, legislative update, Mrs. Stepp.
Okay, so there's, the House Bill 49 has passed and is now at the Senate. And I passed out what I found online about it. There's a lot. I didn't want to bore you with all of this, but it kind of, when you read it, looks nice and like, oh, they're increasing this and increasing that. But Suzanne had pointed out, with our enrollment, we're going to actually start receiving less money from the state. It's not what Governor Kasich had proposed in the beginning. They keep changing it, tweaking it, and it's kind of getting worse. So that was the main thing this week. But a little light reading for you.
That's right.
That's it.
Thank you. Item 8, treasurer's report.
Recommend a resolution to approve April 30th, 2017 financial statements, or reports, I should say.
I'll move.
I'll second.
And there's the attachment. And
Yes.
we'll receive those. Any questions from
Yeah, just, if you look at the page with the summary, our total revenue is at 98%. So we've received 98% of what I projected on the 5-year forecast in October. We've received all of our real estate settlements, and we still will be receiving our state foundation and some miscellaneous revenue to finish the year. Expenditures were at 82%. We're 83% of the year. 83%'s been completed, so we're slightly under on expenditures. And we're wrapping up purchasing. All the purchase orders should be in by now for the rest of the fiscal year. So we have May and June to finish. And then we'll be also, I'll be submitting a new 5-year forecast at the special meeting on the 22nd.
Any questions at all? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Ennis?
Yes.
Mr. Habermill?
Yes.
Mrs. Oates?
Yes.
Mr. Stark?
Yes.
And Mrs. Steph?
Yes.
Number 2, recommend a resolution to establish Fund 019-929 for tennis court renovation grant funds and accept grants from the following: Erie County Community Foundation grant in the amount of $5,000. Erie County Community Foundation from Randall J. and Estelle M. Dorn Foundation, Charitable Impact Fund in the amount of $5,000, and Randall J. and Estelle M. Dorn Foundation in the amount of $5,000.
I'll move.
I second.
Question?
Mrs. Oates?
Yes.
Mr. Stark?
Yes.
Mr. Habermill?
Yes.
Mrs. Ennis?
Yes.
And Mrs. Steph?
Yes.
Number 3, recommend a resolution to accept the following donations: $200 to VHS football program from Foley's Incorporated, $500 to VHS football program from Vermillion Taverns Incorporated, $5,600 to pay outstanding lunch charges district-wide from an anonymous donor, and $100 to Vermillion High School from Heinens Teaming Up for Education Donation Program.
I'll second.
Any questions or comments?
So Suzanne, do you have any idea of the outstanding lunch charges? Do you have a, I don't know. Yeah, I mean.
Know how much?
Yeah, is there a
Is
lot?
that an estimate of? was that from last
5,600
year?
is, no, this is the estimate for the current year.
Okay.
They just don't pay their,
Well, yeah, I mean, it's lunch charges, so anyone that has, a balance on their account for cafeteria, that's added up for the district, it's $5,600.
we have a policy in place, and we have been talking this week to Mr. Penpen and Mrs. Wilson, we're gonna tighten that.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are people that are taking advantage. We were trying to be where there is no, we don't want to refuse a meal to a kid.
Right.
Right.
But there are people that are obviously taking advantage of that.
Yeah,
I-
and there are procedures in place now. Robocalls do go out. There is balances kept. There are letters that are sent out to families, but unfortunately, some of the families ignore either the calls or every type of correspondence that we've had to try to get in touch with them for the payment of the bill. So one thing that we're going to we will tighten up is put a limit. We've talked about this with previous boards in the past, and I don't know I don't think this particular board made the decision to say that we weren't going to just give a cheese sandwich or a very light meal to a child, because what ends up happening is that that child usually will get singled out or pulled out in line, and it's not the child's fault that happened. It's usually the parents that are not paying the bill, unfortunately. So when we've talked about this with previous boards, we made the decision to say, okay, we're not going to permit that to happen. And we'd rather not single the child out. But I think what we're going to do from here on out is put a cap on what a family can owe, because from my understanding, the cap is grown with certain families, and it just gets to the point where then we've got to send a certified letter to the parent or make a home visit and say that's the limit then, and still try not to single out the child, but to find a way that we can either work with the family and say, because in a lot of cases that family might end up being qualified for either free or reduced lunch. There's some qualifiers that automatically get them into the program, but sometimes if their income, if they are producing income but still not, for example, they're not unemployed at the time, that would be one of the things that is a qualifier for them, that would get them automatically into the system and get them qualified, but they don't always get into one of those type of programs, and therefore they haven't filled out the paperwork. So we need to, as I said, put a cap on it, and I think that should help to reduce the amount of money owed to the district. Fortunately, this donation that was made this time is clearing our books, but that we can't count on that every year. And then what we don't want to have is families that do have the financial capability to pay for it and don't, because that's not fair that a donation really is being made on behalf of them that has the capacity to pay for it.
At the end of the year, let's say my child has a balance of $14 left in their account. Does that roll over to the next year?
It does.
So if they have a balance, can't you tack it on to like the school fees for the following year? Or is that not, because it's separate categories, or, I mean,
So if someone
does
someone
that make
owes,
sense? Like if they owe $14.
they charge
or-
$14, can you just tack that on to what they owe for the fees for the following year?
They do that when they become a senior.
Right, you can't get your
can't use your diploma.
diploma, so usually seniors are in there
Right.
because they've hit the limit.
Yeah, this year, and that's, it depends on the class and what the circumstances are, but we checked that balance, and this year, it's only, of the $5,600, only $146 of that
For
is
seniors.
the senior class.
Right.
So it's not that much in this case. So, but,
Excuse me. If there's a refund due to a student, say they turned in money to go on a trip and they didn't go, the first thing the secretary does is see if they owe cafeteria charges. And if that's the case, that refund goes towards that, and the money gets shifted to the cafeteria fund.
Okay.
So that is one thing that we do, is before we give a refund, we check for any charges on the cafeteria fund.
Do we hold them back from participating in sports or extracurricular activities if they owe school fees or?
That's again punishing the child,
Yeah.
the parent's responsibility.
They have their school fees paid to attend prom, I think, and graduate, but I don't know about if they check cafeteria or not, and those type of things.
And, normally we don't hold them back. No, that's not one of the things that we check to see if they're paid up to participate in a sport or something like that. But pay to participate, they do have to pay or they can't participate. But that's a separate issue.
And the majority of these we found are at the elementary school.
Right,
That-
right. And there was a handbook that was produced by the Operations Department and Food Service that did go out to all of the families except the elementary school. So there was a glitch there of, for some reason, that document did not go out to those elementary families. So we'll work with that to make sure that we put a cap on it and that they get all of the information, and there'll be either home visits or a certified letter that is going to go out to the parent after a point, because I think charging 1 month's worth of lunches is got to be about the limit. And I think that's reasonable, but beyond that is not. So we have to determine a number, and it's probably going to be in the $75 to $100 range maybe, but after that, then we can't just keep saying that charge exists.
I think the biggest thing is to make sure that we don't wait until then to start doing something, in my opinion.
When they get to
Home visit
$50,
should be
right.
like pretty quick, because the child is still gonna be the one that's gonna be affected if all of a sudden we wait
Do
until
you
it's $75.
bank on these parents to send a school lunch with them? I mean, they're elementary.
No, they do, they'll get we've been giving them a full lunch. We haven't differentiated them at all, and that's part of the reason why we have the problem that we do.
Yeah.
Because we haven't been making them to do that. We did have a policy at one point where after three lunch charges, I believe, that they were giving at one point a smaller lunch. The requirement would be that they would get a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and a milk and a vegetable or something like that. But collectively with a previous
Yeah.
board, we said we didn't really want to do that because of just the problem is that the child
They come
comes off through the line.
They have their
Right.
lunch,
Yeah.
then they're told.
And then we're
they're
pulling.
told
Oh, you
Yeah.
can't have
And
that.
so then you can't have that,
Yeah,
and then
that's
hear
not-
this, and then,
Yeah.
so that was the problem, but. So, yeah, we're.
I think every school district struggles with this.
It
Right.
is, it's an issue, and different schools do it in different ways, but personally, I think it's just not good to single out a kid, and it's not the kid's fault, so
Right.
we'll work in another way to get the money, and it sounds like everyone on the board agrees that that's what we want to continue to do.
It'd just be nice for the donation to go to those who really need it, it's hard to.
In this particular case, though, and they want to remain anonymous, that they did know that that is the case, that maybe some families that didn't pay it that could will possibly be the beneficiaries of this, but they were okay with that. They said that they understood that, and that was explained to them, and they still went ahead with the donation.
That's generous.
Well, that was nice.
Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Steph?
Yes.
Mrs. Oates?
Yes.
Mr. Habermill?
Yes.
Mrs. Ennis?
Yes.
And Mr. Stark?
Yes.
Number 4, recommend a resolution to pay Matthew Coble the amount of $400 for keeping stats for the 16-17 boys basketball season to be paid from the VHS basketball program donation fund.
I'll move.
Second.
Okay, yeah, just, I want to point out that this, like the taping of the boys' basketball games, is not coming out of the general fund. It was raised, money that was raised by the basketball coaches for camps, and so that money was earmarked at the beginning of the season And the coaches knew that they wanted to have these statistics taken as well as the filming that was on the last month's agenda. One thing that we did make clear to the athletic director, because you could see that it's coming in after the fact, is that this is one of those things that now that you know that this is being done, you need to meet with the coaches at the beginning of the year, include that as part of the budget and say, okay, make sure that if this is what they want to have done, to have it approved by the board before it's done and not after the fact. So it was a little bit of an anomaly this month and last month, but we've made it clear with him that next year we don't want to see this coming on after the fact approval.
Is there a way, I mean, we know what we spent in the past. Does he, I mean, can we just like give him the list so he knows what to expect?
But this doesn't come out of the athletic fund, correct? Because it's from a fundraiser?
We have the main athletic fund, and then we have an athletic fund for each sport, where it earmarks their donations and fundraiser money, puts it aside, so it doesn't get spent as part of the main fund. This was the first year we've really had those, so the breakdown would not quite be the same. And I don't know if the coaches did this in the past, but that is part of the thing that we've talked to Andy, is at the beginning of the season or prior to the season, get all your expenses,
The coaches
get
have to
those, either a
be
purchase
upfront,
order
too.
or get a board approval, whatever you do for the season, before the season starts.
Right. This is 2 months past the season. Any other comments or questions?
Do the students not take stats anymore? We did.
There's a stats class, there's an AP stats class.
No, I took stats
Oh,
for
on that-
basketball.
My girls, yeah.
For the boys'
For the
basketball
sports,
team.
yeah, my daughters did it on teams.
Just
people on the team
volunteer,
did
I
it.
mean, I'm sure there's some students that would love to do that. Then you wouldn't have to pay them.
But again, this comes from a fund, they specifically did something to raise funds to pay this, so.
Specifically for that.
I think
They may do a better job than the students.
Yeah, I think that,
Sure.
there still is some of that done at the student level, but this is, the game has
Yeah.
changed a little bit, and it's a little
Yes.
bit more sophisticated, because he has an app, actually, that he's entering it in real time, and he's looking at what other teams are doing. So when Mr. Cobal's up there, he's got his
He does. He has all
iPad up
this
there,
stuff.
and he's got all of the data, and
Yeah.
everything then is given to the coaches right at halftime, and I think that they're looking at
That's pretty
some of
cool.
those stats actually right there, and they're already compiled when he's bringing, to them by half or by quarter or whatever. He's reporting some of that in real time, so.
That's neat.
Okay, call the roll.
Mrs. Simmons?
Yes.
Mrs. Steph?
Yes.
Mr. Habermill?
Yes.
Mrs. Oates?
Yes.
And Mr. Stark?
Yes.
Thank you. 8 items for discussion.
Okay, there was nothing on the listed officially, but one thing that I want to mention is, and it's not just a mention, I guess it's really to bring attention to the great job that was done at the prom this year. And at the prom, Angie Caffarel and Kara Habermill recognized everyone else, but they failed to mention themselves in that equation. And I don't want to overemphasize the prom, because we have so many great programs, music programs and athletic programs, but I really do say that the prom is something that is exceptional in this town, and it's become an expectation by everybody that they're going to be wowed by what they see, and this year was no exception. So when they did announce all of these at the prom itself, and there were so many people on here, so I'm not going to go through the whole list and thank everybody. There's parents on the list and staff and just about everyone that you could think of that was involved with the prom. And they were all integral in the way that the prom looked and how it was organized and how it came off. So great job, and not to make light of any other program in our district and overemphasize this, but Kara Habermill, our school counselor at the high school, and Angie Caffarel is our math teacher. They both coordinate that, and just a wonderful job. One of the things that they changed up this year that probably looks like, from everything that I heard, I heard no negative, I heard a lot of positive, was the entry. So they came in through the gym instead of the front, and that was predicated at first on the weather, and just the weather cleared at the last minute, and they probably could have come in the front, but who knew? But it doesn't matter at this point, because I think that, and that's a problem too, though. Once you start something, then you start a precedent, and you have to do it again. So there's an expectation now that we'll all come in probably through that gym door, and there'll be concessions and things like that. But that was a good opportunity too, because the freshman class had a fundraiser, and I think that they were able to get a couple $100 towards their prom. So it ended up to be a good night, and it was a good opportunity for the parents. From what I heard when they stood in the gym, we talked about maybe bringing the bleachers out, but Lisa and I talked today. We haven't talked to Angie, and we'll have to get her opinion on this, but we probably will pull the upper bleachers out, not the lower on the other side, because the people really liked being able to get a close-up picture of the girls and the boys coming down the runway. So we'll tweak it. We talk with that team, and every year it gets better. Just when you don't think it can get better, it does. So they did a fantastic job.
It was a great idea too, to show video of the cars pulling up and stuff, right? That way,
That's where I was only.
a lot of kids go to a lot of trouble to
For their ride.
plan their arrival,
Yeah.
so it's a really good idea.
Yeah, that's neat.
It's pretty amazing how many people give so much of their time to prepare for that event.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing how much time is spent on that, but it's worth it, I think, in the end, because the kids have a great memory of it, and they talk about it for years.
And to take a cafeteria and turn it into something amazing.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, It was really,
Yeah.
really neat to see.
I think that there's a lot to be learned from it. Sometimes, every once in a while, you hear, well, there's too much money spent on it, but that team really works hard to economize as much as they possibly can and find things that are either donated, like all those chandeliers that were in the room were bought at a secondhand shop for next to nothing. So it's really, they go out of their way to find things at a discount, and they work hard to find those things. So overall, it was a great event. So that was one thing that was on the items for discussion. Another thing that I just want to mention real quick is that it's Staff Appreciation Week, and I can't say enough about what our teachers do and how hard they work for kids. And this is what our business is all about, and it's not just a business, it's more than that. It's obviously what we are here to do for our community, and our teachers are the ones that make all the difference. And you hear all the time about the stories and the accounts of what teachers do for kids in their lives. So it's important, and we appreciate what the teachers do, and the little things that are done by the principals or by us for the teachers during the week is nothing. You can't repay what they've done for the kids, because they go above and beyond. So thanks for the teachers and Teacher Appreciation Week.
Got some out here in the audience too. Thank you. Thank you for all you do. I appreciate it.
All right, and then the last thing that I think we would like to discuss just a little bit, because this has come up time and time again, is fundraisers, and they are on the consent agenda, or we're on the agenda tonight, and sometimes they're late, and I know that the board is okay with that, but we just want to talk about maybe streamlining this some. And so Suzanne and Cindy, who is responsible for the intake of the paperwork, Cindy Akers does some of that paperwork. They've got some ideas maybe on possibly changing this up a little bit and simplifying it. And so if you want to start talking anytime, you're welcome, because you know more about it than you've forgotten more than I know about it, so because you've done it for so
Well, if
long.
I can say, just to kind of go back a couple of years, the reason we did this is we were hearing kind of some grumbling, rightfully so, from businesses in the community that there's so many different groups coming constantly asking for donations. And you raise your eyebrows, you probably know that. And so we tried to have, start this where they filled out a form, so we knew how many fundraisers were going on, who's doing them, things like that. So go ahead.
Well, that was a valid thing to do, but it has ended up being more negative than positive, because your groups that are actually doing the fundraising get frustrated by this whole process. First of all, they don't understand it, and secondly, then lots of times you've got new people coming into booster groups or new coaches coming in. They've got a lot of stuff to take in. And fundraising is one of the least of their worries, really, but they know they have to raise money for their program. And so a lot of times these things are late just because people, the message doesn't get to them that quickly. And so, the policy the way it is now has become more of a negative than a positive. One thing that I want to say, especially to vendors, is you don't have to acknowledge every letter that you get. The businesses don't have to donate to every group. Nobody keeps score. Nobody watches to see who donates and who doesn't donate. And that's an answer for vendors. If you don't want to donate to a particular group or to none of the groups, nobody's going to hold you to that. Nobody's going to not walk in your door just because you don't support a school group. It really doesn't happen that way. They go out and ask, and they are happy for whatever they get. They don't even, they send out their acknowledgments, but they don't care if people don't donate. I just think vendors need to understand that. Nobody's keeping score. At the same time, to keep a list or a calendar, we've talked about this over and over and over again, it just becomes so burdensome time-wise, and then whoever looks at that. Where does it go? Where does that information go? What do we do with it? We're collecting all of this information, and what do we do with it? There is a process in place, an audit document for those groups that are school groups, and the money goes through the treasurer's office. That process is in place. It's an audit document. It's signed first by the advisor, then the principal. Then it comes to the superintendent, then it goes to the treasurer's office. And when the monies come in, they are verified against that form, and that becomes an audit document. That is a valid process. But for booster groups, PTOs, support groups of any kind, for them to have to fill out a paper and then have it come here for approval, and I've never seen you ever, how would you ever turn down somebody who says they're going to raise money for your school?
Yeah, the last thing we want to do is make it difficult to
Right.
get money from the groups.
Right, you could never turn them down. So for them to have to do that, it's just one thing that gets in their way.
So
And
Cindy, the audit document you were talking about, describe that. What's that process?
I gave you copies of that right there on your, if you look.
Behind the,
First of all, there's a form that says, it says at the top of it that is a sales and purpose and budget statement. That has to be filled out by every group, every school group that is going to be raising money for their projects during the school year. And that gets turned into the treasurer's office. And Monica's responsible for those, and she keeps them in a notebook. And then they're saying on that form, here's what we think we're going to do during the year to raise money. And then the other form is their project potential form, where they specifically say, here's a fundraiser that we're doing, and we think we're going to get this much money. That form then is signed off by principal, superintendent, treasurer, so that everybody knows that this fundraiser is going to happen. After they have their fundraiser, they fill out the backside, where they actually put in there, it's the one that has blue on the back, they actually put in there how much money they brought in, and they have to list every one of their deposits separately. So that when it goes to Monica, she matches her deposits against that form to make sure that every deposit has come in and is accountable. accounted for. That also is an audit document. So that if an auditor comes in and says, I want to audit the choir fund, we pull out all those forms and they can look at the deposits and match them to those forms, and they know that we have accounted for every dollar.
So when did these,
That's been in place the 30 years that I've been here.
okay, so here's my feeling on that. The reason that, and the majority of the board wasn't here when we put the policy in place. The reason the policy was put in place was because we had fundraisers going on that the board office didn't know about. And we had people handling money that the board office didn't know about. And the way they were using the money, they would collect the money, they would pay out their bills, it was not right the way it was going on. And there was
I
too
agree.
much of it going on.
Yeah.
So to me, this didn't work.
Well,
Or we didn't control it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't really have an issue with whether or not we approve them, because you're right, we approve them all.
yeah.
And the whole reason that we did it was for oversight, just to be able to say, yep, we're watching, and we know what's going on, and we're gonna manage it. If we can manage it through this, I have no problem. I mean, but I would think the board,
Suzanne has taken control of that, and she really has a very tight grip on it. The reason why that happened in those couple of years there, we had a lot of overturning in staff.
we did.
Yeah, and that is the reason why.
We
We
did.
had too many people leaving at the same time, and there was, the message on how to get this all done didn't get transferred. So
I don't-
that's really why that all happened.
And then I guess the only thing would be is if we didn't do it the way we're doing it now, my only request would be on a monthly basis, just give us a report of what's going on fundraiser wise. I don't need to vote on it. You're right, I've never voted against one. I don't know how you guys feel.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
But I would like to know what's going on, so if, like Shelley said, if we go from having 4 to 5 fundraisers a month to seeing 20 on here a month, then wait a minute, maybe we gotta think about it,
Too
right?
much, right?
Even
Right.
add that into the week in review, or at the end of the month for the week,
Once a month in a board meeting's fine, but
Yeah.
it's, I just wanna make sure that we're handling it the right way, and I'm sure you do have a good handle on it. It was before you were here.
Well, and those outside, groups like athletic boosters, choral boosters, band boosters, prom to dawn, they don't run through the school. They do fundraisers all year long, but they don't run, so they wouldn't be
Yeah,
filling this out.
And they are not, by board policy, they are not allowed to say to vendors that they're raising money for the school. They have to tell people that they're raising money for their booster groups or their PTO or
Right.
whatever that group is.
Right.
One of the
So-
things that I do is we get daily announcements from the high school secretary. I watch it, see what fundraisers are going on. Monica does too. We watch, of course, the board agenda, which we wouldn't have. And just walking through the high school and seeing signs up, it's like, oh, I don't remember seeing that. So that's something we do in addition to the forms to make sure we do get them all. Not that
Voter journal, we watch voter
Yeah, I
journal.
mean, this really is like a duplicate of what we require, right?
Right,
So
exactly.
you're right, there's no sense for 2 of them. The crazy thing is, though, when we adopted this policy, nobody ever told us this existed. Did you know?
I'm sorry for
I
that.
didn't know.
No,
Well,
and it has cut down.
So and one of the things I do that, I don't know if it was done when Amy was here, but like Cindy said with the transition of treasurers, a lot of things I think might have slipped through the cracks, is we make them do a budget for each activity, for each group. They have to give that to me at the beginning of the year, and they have to tell me, I think that's what one
That's
of
the
these
other
forms
form,
is.
the purpose and
Yeah.
budget form. that-
What the
Yeah.
purpose
Yeah.
of their club or group is, what they think they're gonna do for the year. And it needs to be one of the things they listed. If it isn't, I go back to them and say, you need to revise this because it doesn't line up with the fundraiser or the PO you put in for the
This is
activity.
better. This is better than what we require per the policy.
Okay.
So,
So who sort of looks at, I know we said it's impossible to have a calendar and all the groups put in their dates. Who looks at, are you the one that looks at that and makes sure there's not too many, or do we
I
just?
think your principals need to be the ones to do that.
Okay.
They have to sign off on these forms. They should be saying to their staff members, somebody else is doing this, or you're doing too many. You
And
know.
I mean,
There's been a lot of times when I've seen groups, like Peer Leadership, God bless those kids, they really love to have community service projects. But sometimes they go over the top. Last year's group was so motivated. Oh my gosh, the fundraisers they put through. This year it's been tempered a little bit more. So,
do we need some sort of a little pamphlet? I mean, I know they probably get turnover in all the different
It's-
groups. Do we have,
It's in the treasurer's manual,
Okay.
how to
yeah.
fill out the forms and what the forms are and so on, so.
So principal is the first line. They're the first ones that have to sign those forms. It makes sense for them to govern that. It makes sense for them to say,
What's going on in their
yeah,
school?
you've had too many.
So the other groups that are not raising funds for the school, how do they know that they're not supposed to say that? Is there something
They're not what?
that when they go out to someone asking them for funds, that they're not supposed to be saying they're raising it for the school?
Well,
Do we have that in writing somewhere?
I don't think they do.
When we
I
have
don't-
new,
I've been
We
involved
could-
with all three of those booster groups and Tom to Dawn. I don't know that we
I think they just.
We don't
they're
say we're
specific for
having
what they're
this
doing.
with for the school,
Yes,
we're having
yeah.
this for the choir
Yeah, okay.
program, or this for the band program, or this is to put on Prime to Dawn.
I just
I
know.
know- I know what you're getting at, but
I just
yeah.
know that there was one case of a group that had a new person being in charge of the group from outside of our town even. And the parents, some of the moms decided to get together and do a fundraiser. And I was part of that group, and what they were fundraising, how they were doing it, I thought was totally inappropriate for students to be involved with, so of course I had to say something. So I don't know, and that may never happen again.
Well,
So-
and if you-
you're gonna have that stuff. You've got people, I mean, it's a community, and people have,
Right, I just,
they
I
have
don't,
good
I
intentions.
mean, they're still representing the school because our children are involved with it, so it still gets back to our school district.
Right.
So whether we say it's for the school or not, if it's done wrong, it's going to reflect back on our school district.
Absolutely right.
Any opportunity that I have, I talk to those people that are boosters and say, you can't say this is for Vermont High School. You have to say this is for the boosters club. So, you know, honestly, I don't talk to every single person, but whenever I get a chance, I make it very clear how they have to advertise it. You know, if they're putting out a pamphlet or something, or what they're telling people. Because if they say it's for Vermont High School, then the money has to come to the school district.
So I don't think it would be too difficult, and of course, because we have so much extra hands and time on our hands, to create something that when you do have a new person coming in as a coach of something, not a sport, or even a sport, to give it to them so it's in writing, in there, and it's not something that they may have misinterpreted by the way you said it, it's in black and white.
That's a good idea.
It would be probably a good idea for us to put together just a little one-sheet thing to give out to all the booster groups at the beginning of every school year.
There you go.
Just give it to them, then they know what the expectations are.
Going back to something that you said at the beginning, that businesses have the right to say no. A couple years ago, we held a few business meetings. We invited the business owners in. And of course, that was one of their concerns, is that there's too many fundraisers, and they were concerned that they're always being asked for money. And the problem, though, at that time was, how do you limit it? Because there's the boosters group, and then there's the school groups. And the coordination between those two, you try your best to limit.
I had an idea, sorry to interrupt you. I had an idea for if we could, and if we're going to give this out to the booster groups, and we could enforce this on our own groups, is when you're sending something out to vendors, just put a sentence down in the bottom that says that your participation in this effort is totally voluntary. Make sure that goes on anything that's going to vendors. And that way, they would see clearly that, you know, there's no expectation that you participate.
We're appreciative, obviously, of anything that they can give, and we realize, and that's what we said to the business owners when they came in, is that we realize that they are being asked often, and we empathize with them, and we're not certainly trying to constantly go to them for money all the time. And at some point, though, as a business owner, you have to say, sorry, we can't do, we've already given money this year, and we've given as much as we can, and that's it. And we realize that as a school district. And
One of the downtown vendors a few years ago, I was talking with, and she told me that she has a budget. She actually has, donations built right into her budget. And when she reaches that dollar amount, she's done. And when the groups come in, when the school groups or the booster groups come in, she just tells them that. Here's this is my budget, and this is where I am now, and can't help you this time, but catch me next time.
I think as a vendor, I think you need to expect, first of all, to give back. Your school gives a lot to your community, you have to give back. One way that we have done it, we don't donate to anyone outside of Vermillion. We donate to the schools first and foremost, and then we are more, I don't want to say that, but like the spaghetti dinners and all of that, we do baskets and stuff, but we don't donate beyond that. So I think as a vendor, you just have to decide to be like your own budget. We don't do anything outside of Vermillion. We just don't. We get people all the time, it's dusty in the rain, and sorry, we donate strictly. We are small. We do our business, we do our community, and we do our schools first. And it's up to each individual vendor. I don't think that you should stop asking because you're afraid to ask too much, because I don't think you can. That's what your community does for you as you do for them. It's a back and forth. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. I just think it's up to the individual. I would never say that anyone should second guess putting a fundraiser out because you're afraid you're asking for too much that year or that month. I just think you just have, like she said, you don't have to do it all the time. You just have to realize what's important to you as a vendor is to where you give. So
It's encouraging to see some groups doing things a little creatively, rather than just going and asking for money or specific donations. They're coming up with their own. Prom de Dawn is a prime example of that. The Buckeye sales, they come up with a lot of unique things.
Yeah.
The parents are donating their time and their resources to create it. So it's a little more work sometimes to think a little differently than what's always been done.
So what do we, in order to streamline the process, what are we proposing to be done with the policy?
I gave you a copy, Mike brought a copy of it, but the one that I gave you has that highlight in there. That language would have to either be revised or removed in order for us to streamline. And we can come up with something and bring it to you at the next meeting.
That's
For your approval.
a good idea.
We can send it to you and we can review, and you can make any suggestions that you want for changing.
I would recommend, rather than just strike everything, try to leave something in there so that the third-party fundraisers, the booster groups, and the outside organizations still have a requirement to communicate back through, right? And we don't want to just leave them on, even though they are responsible for their own, we don't want to leave them out there with no oversight at all. And I think the district would still like to have knowledge and an opinion on whether fundraisers are appropriate, and
Okay.
but again, no reason to duplicate forms. This could be the form. It doesn't matter. We want to make sure that it's still communicated well.
We can piggyback that on, I don't know if you all know this, but any form or any brochure, anything like that goes home with a student or is posted up in the building, Phil has to approve that. So we could piggyback that onto maybe that, and any fundraiser that those groups are doing would just come to him, so that he would know what is going on with that work. Is that an idea, or do you think the principal should?
I don't know. Come up with a proposal and bring it back to the next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, for approvals, I don't really have an issue with that. I'd still think we want to communicate it back to the board, so we just know what's going on.
Oh, okay.
we'll draft it and send it out, and then we can review, let you all look at it too. So before it comes out here at the board meeting, and if there's something that you want to comment on, send it back to us, and we'll know.
Sounds good. Yeah, we don't want to be a hindrance to anybody
Right.
fundraising for their organization. That's not the point.
Well, thank you, everybody. I appreciate talking to you about it. I really do.
Thanks for coming and, yeah.
That's all I had then under discussion items, unless someone has
Does
something
anybody else have any
else.
other discussion items? Okay. On to item 9, the consent agenda. The superintendent and treasurer recommend that the Board of Education approve the consent agenda items. Action by the Board of Education and adoption of the consent agenda means that all items are adopted by one single motion unless a member of the board, the treasurer, or the superintendent requests that any such item be removed from the consent agenda and voted upon separately. Number 1, approve minutes of the April 10th, 2017 regular board meeting and May 1st, 2017 special board meeting. Number 2, approve the following fundraisers for policy 5830. VHS Baseball Falls Foundation fundraiser, class of 2018 Mother's Day flower sale, class of 2019 water and snack sale, class of 2020 carnival, VHS softball Dine to Donate, VHS softball hitting clinic, VHS jeans for troops. Number 3, approve proposal from Lake Tech Communications to provide and install aerial fiber line from South Street to the bus garage. This quote will be paid at a 60% discount due to E-rate funding eligibility. 4, approve agreement with Lakota Way for alcohol and drug prevention services for the 2016-17 school year. 5, approve expenditure of $19,900 for VHS running track maintenance and reconditioning. 6, approve the following employment action. Letter of resignation from the following. Kelly King, monitor assignment effective April 25th, 2017. 1-year limited classified contract for the 2016-17 contract year to Jasmine Feltis, monitor effective April 6, 2017. Continuing contract beginning with the 2017-2018 contract year for certified classified as listed. Limited contract beginning with the 2017-2018 contract year for both certified and classified as listed. Maternity leave of absence to Nikki Fritz from September 9th to December 15th, 2017. 1-year additional duties contract for the 2016-17 contract year to the following. Paula Burskin, class trip instructional chaperone. Gary Bruner, class trip instructional chaperone. Angela DeWitt, class trip instructional chaperone. Leah Gentile, class trip instructional chaperone. Allison Hinkle, class trip instructional chaperone. Monica Hampton, class trip instructional chaperone. And Michael Palm, class trip instructional chaperone. 1-year additional duties contract for the 2017-18 contract year to the following. Beth Cacciatore, Ski Club Advisor, SMS. Angie Caffarel, Co-Ball Faculty Manager. John Carmack, Head Girls Tennis Coach, VHS. Virginia Cook Brown, Assistant Drama Club, SMS. Virginia Cook Brown, Academic Challenge, SMS. Katie Say, Special Education Team Leader, BES. Kurt Habermill, Head Boys Basketball Coach, BHS. Brian Hayes, Building Technology Coordinator, BES. Kurt Ennis, Assistant Boys Basketball Coach, BHS. Marlena Jacinto, Head Middle School Cross Country. Joseph Schneid, Co-Faculty Manager, BHS. Bridget Boris, Grade 4 Team Leader. 1-year supplemental contract for the 2017-18 contract year to the following pending satisfactory completion of background check and pupil activity permit. Rebecca Baldiff, Assistant Volleyball Coach, BHS. Richard Bodecker, Assistant Boys Soccer Coach, BHS. Bob Ice, Head Volleyball Coach, BHS. Kristen Hayden, Head Girls Soccer Coach, BHS. Stephanie Mayer, Assistant Volleyball Coach, BHS. And Jason Sokol, Assistant Boys Basketball Coach, BHS. 1-year special project contract for the 2016-17 contract year at the rate of $28 per hour to the following. Dan Walther. 1-year classified substitute contract for the 2016-17 contract year to the following, pending satisfactory completion of background check, to Ashley Knox, Zane Rozier, Sandra Williamson. one-year contract to the following for summer 2017. Joshua Parsons, technology helper, Noah Siders, technology helper, Ethan Griffith, maintenance custodial helper, and Lynn Boland, maintenance custodial helper. All
I'll
right.
move.
Okay, there's a couple on these that I'd like to pull and have voted on separately. For the continuing contract for the 2017-18 contract year classified, Monica Stark, pull that. And then underneath the limited contract for 2017-2018 certified, Kurt Ennis.
And the additional
And
duties.
the additional duties, Kurt Habermill
And Kurt.
and Kurt Ennis.
Are we putting all these in one motion?
I think we
or
should
three
do it in
separate ones?
separate.
Separate, I think we'll take the continuing contract classified as one, the limited contract certified as one, and the additional duties contract as one. And that's because the consent agenda is, all these things, when we vote on it, we accept it all as one whole group. There are family members that I feel it's best for us to abstain on this vote.
Okay.
Anything else that you want to hold or comment or question? So do we go ahead and just do the rest of it, right, except everything else except what's pulled?
Everything that
But what we
Monica
pulled?
Stark, Kurt Ennis, and Kurt Habermill.
Correct. So call the roll on that.
Mr. Habermill?
Yes.
Mrs. Steph? Yes. Mrs. Ennis?
Yes.
Mrs. Oates?
Yes.
And Mr. Stark?
Yes.
All right, then. Motion to approve continuing contract for the 2017-18 year classified for Monica Stark. I'll move.
I'll second.
I'll roll.
Mrs. Ennis?
Yes.
Mrs. Oates?
Yes.
Mr. Habermill?
Yes.
Mr. Stark?
Abstain.
And Mrs. Steph? Yes.
Motion to approve the limited contract beginning with the 2017-2018 contract year certified for Kurt Ennis.
I'll move.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Oates?
Yes.
Mr. Habermill?
Yes.
Mrs. Ennis?
Abstain.
Mr. Stark?
Yes.
And Mrs. Steph? Yes.
And the last one, make a motion to accept the one-year additional duties contract or approve the one-year additional duties contract for 2017-18 contract year to Kurt Habermill, head boys basketball coach, and Kurt Ennis, assistant boys basketball coach.
I'll move.
Second.
Call the roll.
Mrs. Oates?
Yes.
Mr. Stark?
Yes.
Mr. Habermill?
Abstain.
Mrs. Ennis?
Abstain.
And Mrs. Stark? Sorry.
Sorry, click that all difficult.
We'll get those
Wait
mixed
a minute,
together.
I'm getting, I must, Monica? Yeah, I got Monica. Kurt, this is the one I missed. Okay. All these Kurt's is. Okay.
Okay, we're good? All right, thank you. Item 11, public participation. If there's anyone out there that would like to speak, please come forward to the podium. State your name, please, and keep it brief.
YMCA. I recently addressed a letter to the Board of Education requesting to rent the gymnasium at the Vermillion Elementary School for a reduced hourly rate. The current rate for nonprofits is $50 an hour, and I requested the rate of $30 an hour. And I just wanted to follow up on that letter with a face-to-face ask, just letting you know a little bit about what we do. Our mission is to build healthy spirit, mind, and body for all. And through our youth sports programs, we are able to do that to many of the kids in this community, a lot of children from our school system. Last year, we served 1,100 kids through our youth sports, and everything, any money that comes into the Y goes right back into this community. So last year, we were able to give out over $43,000 in financial assistance to families that cannot afford these kind of programs. But it does get a little tight running our own building and also having to rent additional space. So that's why I made that request, and I appreciate your consideration of that. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. And I did bring our brochure about how many people we serve and what kind of service we do. I'll leave with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And your letter was forwarded out, the board members have that. So we'll have a discussion.
Hi, I'm Liberty Oliver and this is Cody Shaw. We're both freshmen here at the high school. And as you can see, we are here to talk about standardized testing concerns for students in our grade throughout our district and the teachers and the district as a whole. So, starting off, one of our major points is that many students nowadays are affected by anxiety. And there are different anxieties. 1 in 4 students suffer from a test anxiety of some sort. And different things that these children would deal with for a test are insomnia the night before, so having problems sleeping, which I'm sure you all know. Poor concentration during a test, excessive fears, worries, and really just an overall detriment in their self-confidence. So these students aren't really being accurately gauged, and 25% of our students are affected by one of these things during the test. So as a whole, our district and other schools really aren't properly represented by a standardized test. Moving on, my sister who's here tonight actually does suffer from anxiety. And last year during her MAP testing, one of her teachers told her that if she didn't score well enough, and just her class as a whole, if they didn't score a substantial increase in their progress on their MAP testing, then they wouldn't be allowed to attend a school assembly or their class party.
What grade was that, just out of curiosity?
5th grade. Yeah, so her entire class was affected by that, and as she already does get nervous about these, has stomach aches and problems sleeping over school itself, that definitely wasn't helping her, and watching her struggle with that was very difficult for my entire family, as I'm sure many other families deal with their relatives. So our concerns with that are just, even younger students are affected by these, and really that's not a proper way to put pressure on a student. Second off, teachers are also affected by standardized tests. It's definitely not just a student. So obviously that teacher was feeling anxious because teachers do receive evaluations, as I'm sure you're all well aware of, through the standardized testing. And so this is also, students with these anxieties aren't going to perform as well for their teachers, and that won't exactly reflect how well they've taught their student. It's just that student on that day. And now I will also mention that countries that do have the best academic standards and everything else don't actually use standardized tests for their students. So standardized testing isn't really that great for our country anyways. It doesn't make our students perform at a higher level. It simply causes more problems.
So the school district, as you guys know, is like they are supposed to send in their test scores to be evaluated by the state, and if the students don't score enough, then their ranking is determined, and the amount of funding they get can either be cut or limited. And the flaw in this is that gifted students do well on these tests, unlike the other students who would get like the same test. So they are, they don't properly gauge the different ranks of the student's education. Another problem that the school faces with having these tests is to properly motivate the students to be able to take the test with ease. Like Liberty was saying with her sister, how they threaten. Well, I know that when I was like coming up to the high school, I wasn't really like threatened, but they would like offer incentives on if you got higher up in the scores. And these tests also narrow the curriculum that the teachers are able to teach the students in 1 year, because they have like a set curriculum that they have on the test, which they give to the teachers to shape around. And they don't properly evaluate the students' education due to the fact that they're based on multiple choice questions most of the time.
Okay, not to mention that I actually, during the school year, was concerned about how these test scores were actually being used. And after we researched it, and I actually went to the school counselors and various teachers to figure out whether or not you actually need these to graduate. And during the beginning of the year, counselors give you these papers showing you how you're supposed to graduate. That way, I mean, just starting as freshmen, you can figure out how you're going to receive your diploma senior year. Well, on these papers, there are 3 different paths to graduation that they don't exactly walk you through. One of them being through the workforce development, which I really won't delve into because I don't totally understand that one myself. And then secondly, through these standardized tests, which is scoring certain amounts of points in different categories and overall. The third is through your ACT and SAT scores, scoring non-remedial on these tests. Both of us are in gifted classes and do score well on these tests, but that means that we wouldn't exactly have to take these anyways, which would just detriment our entire district as a whole. Not having the gifted student scores and the higher achieving students could negatively affect the district, and then when they don't even have to take these tests in the first place. And going through that, I had to go to the counselors who couldn't really give me a straight answer on graduation, even though it's on the papers they gave us, and eventually had to go to the principal and basically find out that I didn't have to take these tests anyways. And that was on the Ohio Department of Education website, in case you're concerned about that. Just wrapping this up, there are many pros to standardized testing. However, really these cons do outweigh it, given that other countries don't exactly use them and they do perform more highly on these tests. And they are the same for everyone, which gives an overall standard and being able to measure that, but like we said, the anxieties and all of the other negative effects on districts, students, and teachers really do outweigh these harms. So we were just here today to hope that we could possibly educate some of the people out here on standardized testing so they would be aware what their students are taking. Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate you bringing your concerns before the board. And we've talked about this before. I think we understand your frustration. I think we're frustrated as well.
We're on your side.
Right, we're on your side. We kind of have our hands tied, but we understand the frustration of evaluating children on a one-time deal, because you don't know what's happening at home that day. You don't know how they feel. There's got to be a better way.
Thank you, both of you, for taking your time and being passionate about this. And obviously, you're not the only ones that are, I'm sure. And but thanks for coming and representing your fellow classmates and just giving your opinion about it. We discussed this at the last board meeting, and since that time, Lisa has talked to a principal, because I said we've got a couple options. One is that we refuse to take the test and take the possible risk and have the ramification that the state will cut us off of funding. So that is something, maybe, I don't know whether the board wants to be that bold or not, and we can discuss that. It has to start.
Treasurer's shaking her head now.
It has to start, though, with one district, and maybe if 5 around us do it, then there's strength in numbers. The problem is that if you go out and one district does it and you're the only one, and then they cut you off, then the people that are sitting in those seats there might not be here. Because, I see a couple of them are on the low end of the totem pole, and those are then always your first to go, too, usually. So it's a problem that way. It's a risk and a problem. The other alternative is that we just so you know, philosophically, from the administrative end, from the superintendent's position, the assistant superintendent's position, and especially at the principal's end, we're not telling the teachers that they should be putting pressure on you. But you're right that the teachers are going to feel responsible because they are graded on those tests and evaluated, so they're feeling personally responsible because of that evaluation. So that's a catch-22 also. Philosophically, we don't agree with what the state is doing or how they're doing it. But maybe an alternative is that, and there's one school that is doing it because there was an interim superintendent that came and spoke at a recent meeting to the principal, and there is one school district that was doing what we were talking about doing, which is doing more portfolio-based, never mentioning the test, never talking about the test, and just taking it when the time came. And so Lisa's meeting with that principal and trying to, without reinventing the wheel, seeing what they're doing, how they're doing it, and is that possible here? So that's another option. So we'll come back to the board at the next board meeting because by then I think that she'll have more information. Our team will have time to talk about it, and it's insanity to some degree, the way that this is. We don't disagree with you, but it's a problem too because there's money involved with this. And that in itself is a problem because those tests that's a $1 billion business, literally. And so there's money tied into all of this, and where does it stop? And who's bearing the brunt of the problem? It's the kids that are having the anxiety and the fearing the test, and that's not what school's supposed to be about. It should be the teachers should be here to be creative, to enjoy what they do, and a lot of the joy has been taken out of teaching, and that's a shame. So we're working on it, and we thank you for coming and talking about it, and we'll talk some more. And it's not something that we're just going to shove to the side and say, oh, well, there's nothing we can do about it. I think everyone on this board thinks the same as you, and they're not happy about it either. So we'll work on it, and we'll come back to you.
But keep coming back to us, because that's what you have to do with adults. You have to keep it in their face all the time. And just because you're being told to do something, if you don't agree with it, just like you're doing now, make sure you're voicing your opinion. And you did a great job doing your research, because that puts a lot of energy behind what you're saying rather than just standing up here stomping your foot saying you don't like it. So good job. You did an excellent job at that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Is this something that we need to work with the teachers, that those tests aren't part of their evaluation?
Well, I think that's what Mrs. DeLees is meeting with the person to find out if we can go that direction and how to go about doing that.
That's the major piece of it, is the teacher evaluation and their slow data that comes in, and the test data, and then what's the alternative then? And so it's on the surface, it seems easy to do, but it's complicated too.
Just have to come up with an alternative.
Any teachers out there like to voice their opinion? Thank you, respectful. No, but you agree, it's stress all the way around for everybody.
It is. We try to make the testing environment as comfortable and peaceful as possible. At the elementary school, we do a lot of testing one-on-one, with an adult sitting beside the kids, small group testing, so that there isn't that much trouble with the anxiety.
Lots of breaks.
Lots of breaks.
Okay.
You know, it's not something that is punitive by any stretch of the imagination, and we do use the information. We use it for grouping, we use it for reteaching some of those skills that the kids are missing. So we do use the information that we get from the test. It just sometimes is a little hard to make a 5-year-old sit in front of a computer screen for, you know,
Yeah.
45 minutes.
And it's the test itself, I mean, they're 5 and they have little hands. And they have to drag things all the way across the screen and it's
The time it takes to.
yeah, it's just so many things that they have to think of the answer and have their hands be able to do it, and it's difficult for them.
Yeah, in general too, at the elementary school, we have a better system there of using some of the map data, and you're getting back more data and more consistent data, and then you're being able to see real growth, whereas with one test
One-shot deal, yeah.
that is given, that's not the case, and then that data comes back way late and it's not useful. So there's just no point in any of it. So
Right.
We just keep pushing. Change is slow.
I was just gonna say, change is slow, it takes time, but it is possible.
Yes, it is.
It's possible. So. All right, 12, date and location of upcoming board meetings. Special meeting, Monday, May 22nd. Regular meeting of Monday, June 12th. Regular meeting Monday, July 10th. And regular meeting of Monday, August 14th. I will not be able to do June 12th.
And I have a conflict with the spring.
Okay.
They just announced that the spring banquet, or the spring sports banquet is
How is
that
that
night.
now?
Can we make it earlier?
Conflict too.
Oh, yeah.
Can we do it?
That's a short one, right? Oh,
Yeah, it's the 5-year forecast.
do you want to do it earlier, or, I mean,
It's gonna be hard for me to do
Sometimes it-
early, but.
oh, okay. No, I mean, on the night, like at 6 o'clock or at 5:30, or is that difficult?
I think the.
What time does the sports thing start?
6:30.
I don't know what time the banquet
I
is,
think it's at
I think it's
6:30.
6.
Or if you want to do a different day too, it's fine.
so I'm looking at the calendar.
It's gonna be submitted the 31st, so
Yes,
it'll be the 30th or any other day that week, the 22nd.
Do-
Or it could even be a Saturday, but that would be Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
Probably don't want to give up that Saturday.
What about like Tuesday the 23rd?
I'm good. Sounds good. You good, Nancy?
It's good enough.
Or no, Sarah?
Right now, my calendar's
I was
empty.
gonna say,
Work on
it's all good.
Tuesdays.
Okay. Wednesday?
I can't do Wednesday.
Incredibly short-staffed.
Wednesday's the band concert.
I can't do Thursday.
Can't do Thursday.
I just looked today.
I can't do Tuesday or Thursday.
Cannot do Tuesday or Thursday?
Wednesday 17th.
Is the 22nd the soonest it'll be ready?
Probably.
Okay.
Can we do the 30th?
Unless we do the
Oh, that's Tuesday.
that Tuesday, the 23rd, if we do it really early, like as early as possible, then I can go straight to work.
Like what time?
Like 6 o'clock in the morning.
I can do it.
Even if you could, and everyone get here by 5,
Yes.
I can make that happen.
you can?
Yeah, I'll make it happen.
What day?
I could take off,
23rd.
I could take vacation, I could,
Well, I'll take a vacation day.
or work later another night. I gotta figure something out. I'm not going, I can't afford to go.
Sounds silly, but it's burden. It's really busy. I can't take Tuesday or
We just
Thursday.
have our board meeting at Hardee's.
That's true too.
I'll cook for you.
could do
That's fine.
This teleconferencing.
Okay, the 23rd at 5, so. I'll mark it on here for Sunday.
That shouldn't take long, right? We're just going from, should.
My calendar is ready.
You don't put a bunch of other things in the agenda that night.
Nothing on the agenda but that.
That, yeah.
Will the House bill be past the Senate by then?
I doubt it. So, I mean, the forecast is the best that we know right now. The
Yeah.
funding, they don't have to have that done until July 1st, so it could change dramatically if that would pass in the current.
Well, yeah, but I think everybody understands,
Right.
you know, once that comes back in, you cut 600,000 or whatever, you gotta adjust.
Right. So
Okay.
May 23rd, 5 o'clock.
What about June? 12th. Do you want to go backwards to the 5th or forward to the 19th?
5th is after graduation.
19.
19th?
I'll get the out.
Graduation to drive you out.
About the last Monday.
Wait, you're feeling?
No, it's okay.
I was going to say, more reason to be here, right?
We really-
5th is good.
We'll be on the agenda, right?
All my final numbers for June, and it's actually better later in the month.
So you're
Are
proposing,
you proposing like
Maybe
the
the 26th.
26th?
yeah, that's fine.
That's fine. Then we're just meeting again 2 weeks later, is that okay?
Or should we take July and push it a week?
Let's just.
By December, it's almost like-
Let's cross that bridge when we come to it, how about
Yeah,
that?
let's just do June.
Okay, June 26th.
Yeah.
26.
I mean, you can skip July. I've seen school boards skip July. You can't give a date and you don't have any like hirings or anything that's critical.
Yeah, so let's wait till we get to June and then
So
if we don't need it, we'll cancel.
If you can get it all in June, just
Okay.
do it all then.
Sounds
All
good.
right, so special meeting is May 23rd at 5 PM. Regular meeting for June is now June 26th at 7 PM. And then July and August is listed, and need be, we'll get to that point. All right, item 13, recommend a resolution to move into executive session for the purpose of employment or compensation of public employees or matters required to be kept confidential by federal law or rules or state statutes. I'll move. I'll second. Call roll?
Mr. Haberman?
Yes.
Mrs. Ennis?
Yes.
Mrs. Oates?
Yes.
Mr. Stark?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
8:28.
8:28.